I would rather sneak into your list and see which is selected at the top favorite movement, and I would say that is mine.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Poppin' the Culture, your weekly entertainment check-in. Me, you know me by now, I'm your host with the most, Mojo. That's right, it's Mr. Hollywood himself, Matt Demers. We got an amazing show coming your way, as always. I'll be speaking with some of the stars and the director of the film They're There. Fascinating stuff. Plus, I took part in a roundtable with the director of RRR. I asked him about his favorite moment in the movie. Don't want to miss that. It's all coming your way. But first, as we do, here's your Hollywood headlines. All right, everyone, we begin with the shocking news regarding a familiar face returning to run the House of Mouse.
See? It needs fixing, and I'm the fella to fix it.
Oh yes, Bob Iger, the former CEO of the Walt Disney Company, is back in the leading role, thus replacing his PR-plagued successor, Bob Chapek.
He is returning to work this morning. Bob Iger retired from the company less than a year ago, but he is back, agreeing to serve as the CEO.
This comes after Disney announced $1.5 billion in streaming losses last quarter, not to mention theme park fans being upset, Disney cable network struggling, and some political-related controversies. Oh yeah, Chapek was also the one that had that very public pay dispute with Scarlett Johansson.
We have to go back to where it all started, so they never do that to anyone again.
Iger, on the other hand, was the one who oversaw the acquisitions of Marvel, Star Wars, and 21st Century Fox. All right, well, here to share her hot takes with us today is the Watch Mojo lady herself, Rebecca Brayton. Rebecca, starting with Disney. Bob Iger, is he best for business? And what about us, the fans?
Yeah, I don't think this is a hot take. I think Bob Iger is best for business and for the fans. He definitely turned things around for Disney. And I think we can all agree that the Bob Chapek era was moderately not successful. So I think a lot of fans are very excited to see Bob Iger back.
Oh boy, after a party like this, there's just one thing to say. Thanks for celebrating with me. Well, good night, everybody.
Okay, well, moving on to movie news, as it's been announced that a bit of visual effects wizardry will be used to turn back the clock in the highly anticipated Indiana Jones 5.
Was closer.
Yep, Indy himself, Harrison Ford, will be de-aged using special effects for a portion of the film. This in order to have the actor resemble how he looked in the original 80s movie trilogy. It was revealed that the sequence will take place during the movie's opening, where Indy will be placed in the year 1944, battling who else but a group of Nazis.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Now, this is nothing new, of course, as the de-aging technique has been used in such films as Gemini Man and Captain Marvel.
Excuse me, miss. You know anything about a lady blowing a hole through the roof of that blockbuster over there?
Rebecca, de-aging Harrison Ford, cheap gimmick or a great way to tell the story?
Cheap gimmick. Next question. No, I'm kidding. No, sorry. Like, I don't think the de-aging thing works. It doesn't work for me. It always looks wrong. So, cheap gimmick. Sorry.
Trust me.
All right, Rebecca, moving on to something just a little bit different for us, as FIFA's World Cup has been kicked into high gear. But there's more than a little bit of controversy this year, mixed with all the excitement.
Not getting hold of the ball, and it's sent into the middle, the first goal of the World Cup!
Being held in the country of Qatar, the global men's soccer tournament is marred in some serious human rights violations and accusations of corruption.
Shortly after the World Cup was awarded here, allegations of corruption surfaced that FIFA officials had taken bribes to vote in favor of Qatar's bid, something that FIFA and Qatari officials denied.
And while some celebrities are boycotting the event, like Dua Lipa and Rod Stewart, some celebs are not. They include the likes of Morgan Freeman and BTS member Jungkook, who both appeared at the opening ceremony.
Let's go!
Other artists will take part in state-sponsored concerts during the World Cup, including Robbie Williams and the Black Eyed Peas. It's also been noted that these performers are being heavily compensated for their appearances.
They drove a dump truck full of money up to my house. I'm not made of stone.
Okay, Rebecca, are these celebs and artists just a bunch of sellouts, or is it not so simple?
It's a lot of money, sure, I get it. But, you know, we've seen... first of all, they've gone back on what they were allowing players to kind of, you know, not promote, but like to show their support for the LGBTQ plus community with the armbands. They went back on that. You know, there's just so many... There's so many issues with this World Cup.
Think of money as pubic hair and FIFA as wax.
All right, Rebecca, moving on to The Walking Dead, as the zombie apocalypse series has taken its final bow after 11 explosive seasons. A not too shabby 2.27 million viewers tuned into what many called a bittersweet finale, but the Walking Dead franchise also managed to spark a new beginning. This thanks to an ending sequence that saw the return of some fan favorites.
It's like he told you. There's no escape for the living.
So what comes next? Well, spin-offs, of course. For one, the characters Maggie and Negan will headline their own series set in New York City. Meanwhile, Daryl will tackle his own show, and Rick and Michonne will hopefully get back together in their own previously announced series.
You showed me that. You gave me that.
Rebecca, forget closure. The Walking Dead has spin-offs for days. Is it time to move on, or is the future bright?
I think one of the reasons people kind of lost interest in The Walking Dead was because the characters they cared about weren't still around, like Rick and Michonne. And if they're back in a spinoff, then, you know, these are people you care about and want to see again. So I'm not really worried for the future of The Walking Dead.
All right, well, last for us on this week's Hollywood Headlines, Rebecca, is a look at some of the tributes being paid to the late Jason David Frank.
Hey, guys.
Tommy!
You don't have to do it alone this time.
Fans were understandably left heartbroken upon learning the passing of Frank, who we all know played the green/white Power Ranger all the way back in the 90s hit TV series.
White Tiger!
Touching tributes continue to pour in for the actor, martial artist, and beloved convention guest, including one from the OG Pink Ranger herself, Amy Jo Johnson.
Just thinking about Jason a lot, and I hope you guys are okay.
Rebecca, this is yet another passing that has hit the geek community so hard. What do you think it was about Jason that connected himself so much with fans and meant so much to them?
Well, I was talking to one of our colleagues, Andrew, who's like a Power Ranger super fan. And so I'm going to try to do his words justice because he had a lot to say. The actor himself was a talented martial artist. You know, you could always trust that if he was doing a cameo in a project, that cameo was actually, or that project was actually relatively legit. And most importantly, I think for a franchise like this, he never looked down on the material or the fans, or he really genuinely showed care and love for the franchise.
Anything's possible.
You really think so?
I know so.
Hey, Rebecca, I can't thank you enough for joining us here today and breaking it all down.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Rebecca, I can't thank you enough for joining us here today and breaking it all down.
Thank you for having me.
But I can't have you leave just yet because me and you, we got to take a little trip. It's a little trip and it's beyond the list. All right, Rebecca, you know the drill. This is where we dig deep in the Watch Mojo archives. We pluck out an old top 10 list and we go beyond that list. What does it mean? It means me and you just get to riff a little. Did Watch Mojo get it right or wrong? Have a little bit of fun with the entries. Today's interesting because it's top 10 times movie studios apologized for stupid decisions. I feel like there's been more and more kind of boneheaded decisions as of late coming out of movie studios. These are times
That's a fact, Matt. That's a fact.
It is, right? You're like, what? Who's running these? Who's running those studios? So these are times that really, those decisions were really not so good. Are you, remind me, Rebecca, I want to say you're a big movie fan. Or are you more on the TV side? What's your fandom?
I'm actually
like?
more of a TV person.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, I love movies.
I was going to say,
I really watch, I like TV. I really do. I don't know why.
You know what? Most people are watching movies on their TV these days, so it's all good. It's now all one and the same, and movie stars are now TV stars, and yeah. There used to be a very direct separation between TV and movies, and now it's all blended so much together, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see what these movie studios were thinking with these apologies. Number 10 on here is making light of allergic reactions. This coming from the movie Peter Rabbit. Do you know what this is?
I do.
What were they thinking? So they're trying to get this guy out, right? And they're playing with his allergy to what was he allergic to? Was it
like blueberries or something?
Yeah, blackberries, blueberries. Yeah, so essentially just trying to kill the guy.
Yeah, great.
In a kids movie.
Excellent. In a kids movie. Yeah. Well, isn't the biggest problem with this movie that it stars James Corden, or no? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But, you know, we know how we all feel about James Corden these days, right? No, this is terrible. It's insane. It's I don't feel like a Peter Rabbit movie needs to be edgy. And I feel like this was trying to make it edgy. And I think they did not succeed.
If anybody out there is going to make a family children's movie based on literature and you want a blueprint, just watch Paddington.
Paddington.
Right?
Exactly. And that movie is not edgy. Like, it's great.
No, it's so great.
But
so
it's not
fun.
like trying to be something that it doesn't need to be. That's what I don't get. I don't get it, man.
Yeah, come on. Paddington 2, by the way, that's a classic. That's a classic film.
Are they making a third one? They must be.
They must be.
They
right?
must be. Okay, well,
the Queen
good for
loved
us.
Paddington, so come on. He's practically
true.
royalty. Practically royalty. Number 9. What is this? Fining a school for watching Lion King? What the
This
heck?
must have been part of the Bob Chapek era.
Apparently, Emerson Elementary School parents wanted to raise money for students, so they decided to host a screening of The Lion King. This was the 2019 Lion King, to, innocent enough, and the school had to pay. They were saying, no, you're going to
it is Bob Iger. It is Bob Iger.
It was the Bob Iger. Man, so he's like, $250. You want to show The Lion King? Give us $250. Later apologized.
Yeah, and I think they offered money to the school. So I think that was I bet I know what happened here, and it was like, some, I don't want to say pencil pusher, it sounds really douchey, but somebody, some minion somewhere hit the wrong, like they were like, okay, this is the rule, and the rules apply to everybody in every scenario. And I feel like if you actually put some thought into this one, you don't send them that legal notice. So
did you watch in your school? Did you not watch Disney movies, like in those like pizza days, or like Fridays when the teacher was
like with the whole school?
No, just in your class they would roll. I'm age myself
I don't
here,
think
guys.
we watched Disney movies. I remember watching the Lorax, but not the Danny DeVito Lorax.
Oh, okay. No, our school, I don't know if the teacher was just, they always said they had to do work. They had to grade stuff. So they would.
That means they were hungover.
They would bring in the TV with the VCR. I'm going to age myself, guys. And this is when I was very young, and they would throw in a Disney movie. I don't think they paid the $2.50.
I don't think that happened at my school.
No? Okay.
No. They actually taught us, Matt. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Explains the difference over here. Number 8, giving the villain's limb. Oh, the villain's limb differences in The Witches. Oh, yeah. So this is. Oh, I forgot about this. So this was the remake of The Witches, that film with Anne Hathaway?
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah. And so they gave the witches, and this wasn't in the book or any other iteration, but they gave them 3 fingers. Is that what it was? That's what it was.
I don't. Yes.
Yeah. And then it was like, they were saying like, the assumption was that if you're evil, all these evil characters only had 3 fingers, but then of course there's people around the world that,
I know. It's like, it's one of those things that I feel like they did not have like a focus group. Like it was like a small group of people who were like, this is a great idea. And no one, I just don't understand how anyone from the
Is it a great idea?
In the making of this movie wasn't like, hey guys, aren't we saying something not great here?
Yeah, it's completely offensive, but even on a creative standpoint, it's kind of dumb. 3 fingers, like that makes you a witch. That's not in any other.
I know.
It's so weird. It's a weird thing to me, and it's offensive.
The fact that it wasn't in the other movie, it wasn't in the book, like they managed to tell the story otherwise. So I don't even understand the change. I don't.
Yeah, that's weird.
Anyway.
That's a weird one. Well, they apologized, as the list alludes to. Number 7 is another interesting one that I do recall, and that is the misrepresentation of real life people in the film Dreamgirls. This was a big movie. Jennifer Hudson, fantastic, knocked it out of the park. But there were some people that were depicted. Music mogul Berry Gordy Jr. in particular was upset the way his character was portrayed as almost a villain. And I can see this when you're doing these adaptations of real life people and they're still alive. That it's like, and if you're going to make them the bad guy.
Couple points here. I have no corroborating evidence for this, but I thought Berry Gordy was like known for predatory contracts. Like, I thought he was kind of a villain in real life. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was allegedly, I hope that helps. I thought that was a thing he was known for. Secondly, it's not like the character's named Berry Gordy in the movie, right? Like it's a loose adaptation.
Yes.
So this one I'm not sure about. I don't really buy it, to be honest.
I think the big fuss surrounding this, Rebecca, was that this was happening around the time the Academy was putting their nominations out. They were voting on who would get in the Academy Awards, and this was like in the news, so that's why the apology went out. Had it not been around this kind of, I want to call it an election period, but it's not. Campaigning period for the Oscars, I don't know if they really would have, because you're right. You bring up some good points. Number 6, Peter Fonda sends some threatening tweets. What is this about? Peter Fonda was set to appear in the movie Boundaries, and he issued an angry tweet aimed at, this was towards President Trump at the time, his immigration policies. A portion of the actor's
I don't know what the tweet said. So
apparently it was not safe for work.
I can't comment on it. But
NSFW
in
message.
General, yeah.
He took, here's what it is, Rebecca. I'll tell you what it is. He took aim at Barron. He mentioned Barron, the son.
One. Okay.
Yeah, that's the big issue here.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay. So in general, I'm fine with with actors, voicing their opinions on politics. That's what Twitter's for. If the president's allowed to do it, actors are allowed to do it, whatever. However, it is not cool to go after someone's kids in any scenario.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That was definitely not great.
Yeah, that's what it was. And
there are so many, and I mean, like, you could just take aim at the specific policy and that would be bad enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't need to bring someone's kids into it in that scenario.
Yeah, anyway. Absolutely. And I was thinking to myself, I don't even remember this movie, Boundaries, but that's because this...
Maybe that's why.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it got such backlash. Peter Fonda. But yeah, I was going to say, people lashed out at Trump all the time, but that was the big issue here. Number 5, Gods of Egypt. This was a 2016 film, and it was accused, like so many other movies, of doing what's called whitewashing, where you take these characters of color and you cast all white actors and you just kind of erase that whole cultural background. It happened with...
Are we really still doing this? Wasn't it like Jamie Lannister in this movie, who is like Norwegian or like? Okay, let me find out. Let me. But I feel like definitely not Egyptian.
It happens so much. It happens so much. The Avatar, The Last Airbender. That was a big one. And then remember Emma Stone. She played someone who's supposed to be of an Asian descent. And then you had...
he's Danish.
Scarlett Johansson. And I can think of a million.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. And I'm surprised it still happens. You know, John Wayne played Genghis Khan. Like... yeah. Anyway, no. This movie had Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who is Danish. I'm sorry for mixing up my Scandinavian countries. And that is decidedly not Egyptian. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, just make a different movie then. Yeah. Just make, like, if you want to make a movie with specific people or like a specific vibe, then just make a different movie and don't call it Gods of Egypt. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, I'm upset.
No, it's so true. And you can get away with it in certain movies, certain stories, if it doesn't affect things. I think that it can work. We don't need to be so nitpicky. But in movies, you're right, where you're looking at a specific culture and specific people, I don't know if you can really get away with it, and they certainly didn't here. Gods of Egypt had to put out a big apology. That's why it is number 5 on our list. Number 4, moving on. There was an offensive joke in the movie Monster Hunter. Did you ever see this Monster Hunter? This is based on...
I did.
This is based on...
I did the junket for it.
Oh, did you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're calling this a PR disaster internationally because of this particular scene.
Yeah.
Racist jokes used against Chinese and Japanese people. Ugh.
I don't remember the joke exactly, but I was like, what? When I watched the movie, because I think I saw this version of the movie. I think they've taken it out since, but I was like, that seemed unnecessary. Like, it was, it was just like, what? It kind of came out of left field, and I mean, it's not like that movie's made for its dialogue anyway, but it just seemed out of place and unnecessary, and I think it's worth an apology for sure.
Unnecessary is a great word, and especially a movie franchise like, we're not going to call it franchise, but a movie like this that is going to be seen by a lot of people internationally, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know why there wasn't somebody doing what's called kind of quality control or going through and make sure that, Number 3 on this list is using a male voice to represent a transgender actress. This was in the news for the movie Promising Young Woman. So here's what happened. In that movie, you have Laverne Cox, who is celebrated, award-winning transgender actor, and they had a male performer for the voice in this movie, and it was I think it was the Italian trailer that went out. Is that what it was? Yeah. And then Cox, of course, was rightfully offended. So I think this has to do a lot with changing times, Rebecca. What do you think? We got to learn.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really think there's an excuse for this at this point. And Promising Young Woman did not come out that long ago. So I definitely think by that point, everybody should kind of be on the same page. I don't know about cultural differences or differences from country to country in terms of how accepted transgender people are. So I just don't have an answer for that, but maybe that is an issue here. I don't know. It just seems like such a dumb decision.
Yeah. Well, that's the point of this. This is what we're talking about. Stupid decisions.
I know.
And the studio had to come out
well,
and make
I think
the
we
apology.
nailed this list. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, it's true. Boneheaded stuff. Number 2, Teenage Mutant. I don't know if I remember this. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was an advertisement for this that came out with 9/11 imagery. Whoa, are we talking the Michael Bay stuff? Yeah, we must be.
I have to read this.
So, there was a post. Yeah. I'm reading the synopsis now, but yeah, it looks like there was exploding building in some sort of a poster advertisement that was reminiscent of.
And the release date was September 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine seeing that. Imagine seeing that visual, the exploding building, September 11th on this poster.
I am of the opinion that for people who were of an age, we're basically adults when 9/11 happened, it's never gonna, you're just always gonna see it. You're I feel like maybe a younger person might look at that poster and not make the connection, but I don't know when this movie came out, but anyway, I get it. I get why you would see this for sure. But a lot of people making 9/11 jokes on Twitter these days.
Really? Are we there? No.
Yeah. A lot of 9/11 jokes.
No way.
Yeah, apparently we're there. In the past couple of years, I'm really like, okay, I guess we've hit that point.
Man.
And I'm surprised, but anyway.
Yeah, no. Clearly someone wasn't reviewing these advertisements closely enough, because to see that date especially and then see the visual, that should have set off some alarm bells. That's why it's at number 2, meaning number 1 on this list is creating fake news. Before fake news was a popular phrase. A cure for wellness.
No, it wasn't. That is when fake news was a big phrase.
Oh, was it? Oh, you're right. 2017. You are so right. So that was when fake news would have been just the big thing, right? When Trump was saying fake news. So 2017, this movie studio, 20th Century Fox, for a cure for wellness, decided to make some fake news of their own and put out some misleading articles claiming it to be real. And they got passed around, and it had to do with misinformation about vaccinations. Oh man.
Well, that's why it's number 1 on this list.
Oh, they're saying secret meetings occurred between Trump and Putin at the time. You are so right. This is right in the thick of the fake news shenanigans.
But isn't that true anyway? Is that fake news? I thought it was true.
But to promote a movie, you're
know.
doing this to promote a movie?
No, anyway, this is very dangerous. This is hugely dangerous because if this stuff, we're at a point in history where the truth almost doesn't matter. And it just matters what you believe.
Alternate truths. Alternate truths, right? That's another phrase that became popular. So there's so much out there. Yeah, you're right. It's to purposely put something out there, but as a promotion for a movie, that's just why.
Yeah, I hope somebody got fired for this. Yeah.
That's crazy. Because I remember that was a tactic they used on movies like the Blair Witch Project back in the 90s, where they were trying to made websites.
It's not the same. Misinformation about a demon or a witch, obviously, and misinformation about the current sitting president and vaccinations, which it wasn't as important in those days, but
and trying
I'm
to
just
connect it to
I'm
their
so
movie.
mad.
Trying to connect it to their movie plot. Yeah.
I don't even remember this movie.
It's not terrible. Dane DeHaan. He's a good actor. I'd like to see more of this guy. But it's a long movie. It's quite a long movie. But yeah, it wasn't terrible. But I'm sure this fiasco didn't help their ticket sales. There you go, Rebecca. Some boneheaded decisions. Studios if you need someone to go over some things, call the Watch Mojo lady. She'll help you out. She's got you covered. Rebecca, I can't thank you enough for joining me once again here on the show.
Thank you, Matt. It was fun.
All right, everyone. It is now time for our Mojo Chats of the week.
Maybe we're just a couple of people with imperfect records who have found each other at exactly the right moment.
The movie is titled There. It's this really interesting story about human connection. It's a drama, a little bit of comedy, and it's also a little bit experimental. Well, here to tell us more about it, we've got the director and some of the stars of the film. Andrew, we're going to start with you. I mentioned the experimental portion of it. Explain to people how this was filmed and I guess the reason why.
Yeah, well, I think when the lockdowns hit a couple of years ago, there was a period of a few months where nobody could do anything, and then movie making started to come back. A lot of bubbles, but during that period, I just got this idea in my head. I started to think about what it meant to work in a bubble, and I started to think about an extreme bubble and isolation. And so I thought, every time in a movie where you cut from one character to another, there's a bit of a trick in that, right? Because you're collapsing space and time, and maybe these things were shot hours apart and who knows what else. And I thought, well, what if I just take that distance that's already there and pull it just like a piece of taffy, just pull it in two directions so that I'm shooting every actor in isolation. But what if the scenes are still very intimate? So it started to get me thinking about the kind of trust and faith it would take to do that. I started to think about relationships of trust and faith, and then from there started to find these characters in this weird story, and we made it in this unique and strange way. But hopefully it's rewarding on screen.
Absolutely, no, it's pretty remarkable that you. To be honest, it took me a while to figure it out. This was actually happening. It was really well done. So let's switch now to the actors to find out just how challenging, or maybe not, this was. Annie, let's start with you. How was the process? How was this experimental way of acting? Did you enjoy it, or was it difficult?
Oh my God, I loved it. I have some performing and like storytelling kind of middle-aged lady performing credits, but I don't really act like in films. And so for me, it was just a great process. I got to be there and kind of do a monologue in a way. I had my best friend was there, our phantom cast. I don't know if we've talked about that with you, but we had people, great actors who were reading the other part for us. So I got to kind of do my role with my best friend. I had a great time. I loved being there. It was awesome, but hard.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that when you're an actor, and I've done a few in my university days. You always get told got to play off the other person. It's kind of a give and take. Avi, let's switch to you. Not a lot of room for improvisation here. I'm assuming you had to really stick to the script.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Andrew writes a brilliant script with all the ums and ahs and everything in it, and so if you actually stick to that, you can kind of fly a little bit. But yeah, because of the phantom cast, we got to both react and play off of brilliant actors, but then also trust in Andrew to kind of give us direction for a whole wide set of performance ideas and improvisation, because he was going to cut together the film with another actor on the other side that, for example, I've never met Jason nor, heard what he was doing on the day or anything. And so it was both, like Annie said, you sort of doing a monologue and coming up with ideas. You're also trusting perhaps more in your director than you would ever, because you have no idea what's on the other side. And, getting to play with really good actors who are extremely selfless, because we don't even get to see or hear them in the end.
Absolutely. You mentioned Andrew writing those scripts with the oohs and ahs. Andrew, I don't know if you obviously know this online. They call you the godfather of something called mumblecore. Okay, people out there watching who might not know what the heck that is, and they say this movie's like mumble porn. Okay, you tell us what that is. That's the thing. I read that.
Okay. Oh gosh, I don't really know what it is either. It's one of those labels that came about. In this case, it's entirely my fault. It's something that somebody said to me as a joke, and I made the grave error of repeating to a journalist as a joke. But it kind of metastasized. I mean, it's amazing to see like a word travel like that, because now I was just in Argentina and Chile at film festivals last week, and journalists are asking me questions in Spanish, and then I just hear the word mumblecore kind of pop up in the middle of their sentence. The word has had great legs. I don't know really what it means, because none of us ever set out to make a mumblecore movie, but I think at the time we were doing these movies, 20 years ago was my first movie, there was maybe an attempt to react to the more genre-driven stuff out there and just make a movie that was on a very basic level about people, about communication, but also about struggles in communication, failures of communication, which I think is perhaps where the mumble comes from. And really, as much as I've tried to in my 20 years of movie making, try different things, I hope no two movies are quite the same. Certainly, this one is unlike anything I've ever done. And yet, talk about challenges of communication. I mean, we took that to a crazy extreme on this movie. So that's always part of the equation for me.
Layers, lots and lots of layers. Okay, finally, let's go back to our actors and let's get the tease for your characters. Okay, there's some interesting dynamics, and you guys gonna jump around. Give us the tease. And to start with you, you were in one of like a really interesting scenario. Well, you tell us.
Well, I'm in one scene with a woman who I'm her AA sponsor, and she's telling me about a really significantly weird story that's been a part of her life. And then the next scene that I'm in, which was fun and fascinating, was with Molly Gordon, and I was in a just horrifying parent-teacher conference, where I'm kind of busting the teacher who busted my son doing something horrible and perverted.
Yeah, no, just, I was glued in. For that scene. And then Avi, that kind of ties in with what
sure, yeah. Horrible and perversion is it's all about my character. No,
maybe it is mumble porn after all. No,
it's funny because the mumble porn or the mumble core or the mumble anything is you can't actually mumble through Andrew's scripts because it's so specific. And there are some scripts that sometimes, I do stuff, go like that and it all works. But this doesn't. For me, that scene, maybe if the audience finds it really terrifying and horrible and perverse, but for me, it was just about me sort of ripping into my good buddy and seeing if I could get a rise out of him. And so, it was all about kind of running around an apartment and jumping on gymnastics rings and messing around with a friend across the world. The funny thing about my scene was it was the only one also in the movie that played over Zoom like this. So, I got to enjoy this experience that we're having right now for a whole day.
Absolutely. Well, we do encourage everyone to experience the movie. It's called They're There. I can't thank you all enough for your time today. Really appreciate it. All right, as mentioned at the top, I recently took part in a roundtable discussion with the director of RRR, and I just had to ask him what his favorite moment in the movie was. Here's what he had to say.
పులిని పట్టుకోవాలంటే వేటగాడు కావాలి. ఆ పని చేయగలిగేది ఒక్కడే సార్.
Okay, well, first off, congratulations on an incredible film that people just love. It's filled with so many great moments. As a matter of fact, we here at Watch Mojo actually ranked those moments in a top 10. Admittedly, it probably could have been a top 100. I think our number one was actually the dance-off at the party.
Number one, dance-off.
But I'm curious, as the director, what your personal favorite moment was from the film.
Quite difficult. Quite difficult. I would rather sneak into your list and see which is selected at the top favorite moment, and I would say that is mine. So dance-off was fantastic. Personally, I think the scene where Beam is being whipped and he still goes on the song of not bending down. It has a kind of very, very earthy quality to it, which depicts the people of Telangana, where Beam belongs to. And the performances of both the actors in that scene, in that song, was incredible. So I think I have to say that would be my favorite.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition, everybody. Big thanks going out to the Watch Mojo lady herself, Rebecca Brayton. Love having her on the show. Plus, all my guests today. Make sure you check out There and Triple R. It's a blast. But hey, the biggest thanks going out to you for watching and listening. I've been Mr. Hollywood, popping that culture.